Hello, everybody, and welcome back. We are going to be continuing Nancy Drew, number one, The Secret of the Old Clock. Chapter 6, An Unpleasant Encounter. In spite of Nancy Drew's firm decision to assist the Horner girls, the days slipped by, and try as she would, she could think of no way to discover whether or not the missing Crowley will had fallen into the hands of the Tompkins. Although she seldom discussed the case with her father, he knew that she was troubled. "You're worrying about the Horner girls," he observed one day. "I'm afraid you're taking their misfortunes too seriously. There's nothing you can do without the will, and you had best forget about it. Why, you've scarcely been out of the house since the Horner girls were here. Go shopping or anything to take your mind from the subject." "I have been thinking about Allie and Grace," Nancy admitted, with a rueful smile. "I was so sure I could do something for them." "Give your mind a rest, and perhaps you'll have an inspiration," Mr. Drew encouraged her kindly. "All right, I'll take your advice and go shopping, though I really haven't a thing to buy. The fresh air will do me good, I suppose." After luncheon, Nancy left the house and made her way toward the business section of River Heights. The walk was a long one, but she took it at a brisk pace. Nancy naturally was athletic, and as she swung along more than one passerby turned to look after her in admiration. After window shopping for a time, she wandered into a department store more from curiosity than because she had anything to buy. She moved about aimlessly, gazing at whatever struck her fancy. Suddenly, Nancy's attention centered upon two girls who were hurrying down the aisle ahead of her. She stopped short and stared. Though their backs were turned, she had recognized them. Ada and Isabel Thompson. "I'm sure I don't want to tag them around. I'll just slip down another aisle." But Nancy Drew never carried the thought into action, for at that very moment she saw Ada brush carelessly against a counter of expensive vases. As her sleeve caught, a large fragile bowl was swept to the floor. In horror Nancy heard the crash and saw the bowl break into a dozen pieces. As Ada looked down upon the wreckage, a slight flush mounted to her cheeks. Then, with a toss of her head, she started to move on. "Miss, I am afraid I must ask you to pay for the bowl," a saleswoman interposed politely. Ada wheeled angrily and stared at the saleswoman insolently. "I will not pay for it," she snapped. "I didn't break it." "But, miss, I saw you knock it off the counter," the saleswoman protested. By this time the floor manager had arrived upon the scene, and a number of shoppers had gathered about Ada and the salesgirl. Nancy likewise drew closer. "This impudent girl claims I broke a vase," Ada stormed, addressing the floor manager. "I wasn't even near the counter at the time. However, I did see her knock it to the floor herself. Isn't that so, Isabel?" Solemnly, Isabel agreed to the untruth. The floor manager looked doubtfully from the Thompson sisters to the saleswoman. He realized that it would be a serious error to accuse well-to-do customers falsely, and for that reason he was inclined to give the Thompson girls the benefit of the doubt. He stooped over and examined the fragments of the bowl. "Someone must pay for the damage," he said severely. "This is an expensive imported bowl." "Then let your clerk pay for it out of her salary," Ada retorted. "If she hadn't been so stupid, she wouldn't have been broken the vase." The saleswoman was too bewildered to take her own part, and Nancy saw that the floor manager was in a dilemma. As she sensed that he was about to exonerate Ada from all blame, she stepped forward. "You must be mistaken, Miss Thompson," she said quietly. "I am certain the saleswoman did not break the bowl, for I saw the accident myself." "What business have you to interfere?" Ada demanded harshly, wheeling upon Nancy. "Perhaps it isn't my business, but I can't permit you to accuse this girl of something she didn't do." "You saw the accident, miss?" the floor manager questioned. "Yes. As Miss Thompson walked by the counter, her sleeve caught on the vase." "It isn't true," Ada snapped. "But I'm tired of this silly argument. How much do you want for your vase?" The floor manager studied a price list. "$50." "What?" Ada fairly screamed. "You want $50 for that old bowl? I'll never pay it." "The vase was imported from Italy, miss, and I'm afraid you must pay the price asked." Do you know who I am? Ada inquired loftily. I think everyone in the city knows about the, the Richard Tompkins. The manager returned wearily. My father owns. He doesn't own this store, the man interrupted with growing impatience. If you refuse to pay for the vase, I shall be forced to turn you over to the authorities. You wouldn't dare, Ada gasped. Never in all my life have I been insulted like this. Isabel, who was slightly more reasonable than her sister, now held a whispered conference with Ada. All right, I'll pay for the bowl, Ada decided, as she took out her checkbook. But let me warn you, the matter won't be dropped here. She turned upon Nancy Drew and eyed her coldly. I'm not through with you either, young lady. You'll pay for this outrage. Nancy made no reply but continued to smile pleasantly, an act which further enraged the Tompkins sisters. Hastily settling for the damage Ada had done, they sailed grandly out of the storm. Gratefully, the saleswoman thanked Nancy. You don't know how I appreciated the way you took my part. I couldn't have paid for the bowl, and if you hadn't said what you did, the floor manager probably would have discharged me. I saw her break the bowl, and I was determined to see justice done. There is my name and address if you need it. And Nancy handed the woman a card. I'm afraid you have made enemies by taking my part. Nancy shrugged her shoulders indifferently. It doesn't really matter. The Thompson girls were never my friends. But they might try to get even with you. They're very spiteful. Let 'em try, Nancy smiled. However, I don't believe there is any need to worry. Their talk is mostly bluff. Lightly, Nancy Drew dismissed the subject, and as she found she was being regarded with curiosity and admiration by those who had witnessed the scene, left the store. She walked slowly toward the park. It makes my blood fairly boil every time I think of Ada and Isabel Thompson getting all the Crowley fortune, she told herself with feeling. Especially when Grace and Allie Horner need the money so badly. The way Ada tried to accuse that shop girl was disgusting. Nancy crossed the public park and paused for a moment at the drinking fountain. As she glanced up, she saw that unwittingly she had selected the path Isabel and Ada Thompson had taken. Upon leaving the department store, they too had gone to the park, and were now seated upon a bench, engaged in earnest conversation. Their heads were close together, and, from the expression on their faces, Nancy suspected that they were discussing her. Unless she retraced her steps, it would be necessary to pass directly in front of them. If they see me, they are certain to say something mean, Nancy thought. And if they do, I'll be sure to lose my temper. I know. She decided impulsively. I'll take the path through the bushes and avoid them. I can pass behind that bench and they'll never notice me. Ada and Isabel were so engrossed in their conversation that they failed to notice Nancy's approach. Chuckling to herself, Nancy left the sidewalk and quietly made her way down the path which was shaded with overhanging bushes. She had no intention of attempting to overhear what the Tompkins sisters were saying, but as she noiselessly approached the bench where they were sitting, two words reached her ears, causing her to pause involuntarily. Ada was speaking, and the phrase which Nancy had accidentally overheard was "the will." In a flash, her suspicions were aroused. She comprehended the significance of the phrase. It must be Joshua Crowley's will they were talking about, she reasoned. Perhaps they know something about the missing will. They may reveal what became of it. With the instinct of a detective, Nancy Drew crept cautiously closer. The bushes were thick, and by crouching low behind the bench she was able to hear without being seen. Oh, if only she might learn something which would prove that the Tompkins had deprived the Horner girls of their inheritance. And that was chapter 6 of Nancy Drew, the number 1, The Secret of the Old Clock. Please like and subscribe. This is Raven Cross. Have a great day.